Okay, good evening everyone. Thank you for tuning in and I hope you're well. My name is Clement from Kerry Consulting. I'm a legal recruitment consultant, but for today, I will be your moderator for today's panel discussion, What Law School Doesn't Teach You. So as this exciting year draws to a close, many professionals now turn their attention to what's next for 2023. As the year looms to an end, many lawyers are considering, how to chart their career paths and wondering if the firm that they're practicing is ultimately a long-term option. Naturally, it is an opportune time for us to discuss subjects that are close to heart, namely the attraction of talent, retention of talent, and also the development of talent within the legal sector. So running up to today's discussion, we've actually conducted several polls within the legal industry about matters, about how lawyers feel about training, about the legal industry as a whole. And it is notable, I think, to note that a significant proportion of the lawyers surveyed, of 700 lawyers, 70% felt that actually law schools and law firms do not provide adequate mentorship and training. Secondly, a vast majority as well felt that the training and development within the law firms was not adequate for their own career progression. So at present, it seems that many view formal legal training and education as not sufficient in today's world to help them chart their career paths or help them build a team in which that they desire. So today, it would be, in this competitive landscape, we feel that every lawyer deserves a better understanding of the undercurrents as well as the objectives within hiring within the landscape. This, we feel, would add greater perspective and focus to a lawyer looking for a next challenge or a firm looking to build the right tight-knit team. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today's discussion, which they have plenty of experience on the subject matter and have graciously agreed to weigh in on their opinions today. From RHT, we have Nandu, a partner in the Litigation and Dispute Resolution Department, notably, as I understand it, the youngest lawyer to make partner in RHT, as well as Singapore's 18 most influential lawyers under 40 in 2021 by Singapore Business Review. Most welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Joining Nandu will be Jacqueline Choi, who leads the HR department at RHT as HR director, with almost 15 years of credible HR experience under her belt. Most welcome, Jacqueline. Further, my colleagues from Kerry Consulting have been kind enough to join us and share their experiences and best practices. Chu En is our private practice head, as well as having worked with many reputable law firms in the region. And Agnes, who leads our legal interim department, who has extensive experience hiring experienced senior professionals and specialized functions. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
Most welcome. So perhaps before we jump into the crux of the matter today, I feel it's perhaps pertinent for us to understand a bit more about the undercurrents of the legal industry today. Perhaps I could start off with a question with Agnes. May I ask a bit more about what are some of the notable trends in hiring in the legal industry today?
I think some of the key notable trends would really be that a lot of law firms recognize lawyers as more than just a fee earner, right? I think we see a lot more non-fee earning roles. So you have, for the longest time, there's always been knowledge management lawyers, professional support lawyers. I think these are functions that have come to grow in a much bigger way. So there's a lot of more varied career trajectories beyond the holy grail of making partnership one day. So as young lawyers, in the audience, there's a lot more you can do with your law degree. So that's just on the law firm end. I think this has also transited to the in-house space. So being a legal counsel, is obviously what a lawyer from private practice will move in-house for. But if you have a legal degree, you can move on to become, compliance manager, anything that's governance related, or even on the business front, you can have legal structuring roles. You basically have anything that is like ESG, sustainability financing, all of these functions. If you have a law degree, if you're a trained lawyer, I think that's where it is trending, in the industry today. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Agnes. If I may move on to another question, I think on to this point as well. Many factors, I think, affect the trends that affect us today. COVID-19 fairly recently, legal technology, or at least its advent, and more recently, perhaps, the threat of a looming recession. If I may ask, how have these changes impacted the perception of the legal profession?
I think for legal tech, I would say it's more a bane it's more boon than a bane, actually. I think as with every changes in terms of technology transformation, the most painful part is basically implementing it, getting everybody to get used to it. But more often than not, I mean, right here we are in a virtual room, giving this session. That is what technology has come about. But I think legal tech in particular, we're just chatting with Nandu about how, you can basically file cases on e-litigation, right? You don't have to run to court, simple things like that I think back in the days we used to take for granted. You have much better software, case management, all of these things that I think particularly during the time of pandemic that has really turbocharged, I think, in terms of how legal tech has become very important. Well, on the flip side, maybe there are certain roles that have kind of maybe been made redundant. So legal secretaries or, basically roles that you have your typical filing of cases, right? The paperwork of it, the database of it, and back to legal tech. I think the bane of it would be, we talked a little bit about earlier as well, about IT security, right? We have to make sure that everything that is online, that is in the technology sphere, has to be highly protected. And we are always facing a lot of challenges where that's concerned. So both pros and cons, but I think ultimately legal tech has actually helped the legal profession in terms of moving forward. If you're talking about COVID-19, how it has impacted the perception of legal profession, I think the pandemic is not just the legal profession, as with every profession, right? We are going through kind of an unprecedented time. Hybrid working, remote working. Has it ever been possible where you see a lawyer work from home? Again, we were talking earlier about how we know of some lawyers who have left law firm, set up on their own. They don't actually have a physical office. They are actually working from home. This partner hired his associate and they're all working from home. For the young lawyers in the audience, you might think that is wonderful. I never have to go in the office. I can work in my shop. But back to what we talk about, legal tech. Only technology can make it possible. How do you truly ensure that there is confidentiality involved, with the attorney and the client? So I think with COVID-19, all of this, you have made the legal profession look like, that we are, or rather the legal profession is a place where it's no longer just fuddy-duddy, I think RHT and I think Jacqueline will talk more about it. It's a 3-day work week company. But equally, there are companies, as with investment banks, where they insist that their staff has to come in 5 days a week. And to each its own, right? There's no right or wrong. You will attract the talent that you want to hire, and you will then become the law firm that you want to be. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Agnes. That's very illuminating. Jacqueline, actually, if I may turn to you on the next question here. Several of these factors here, I think, apply to all the law firms and any company here in Singapore. If I may ask, how has these factors actually affected the recruitment needs and hiring strategy for RHT Law?
I think with technology, COVID, this has definitely impacted us in a lot of ways. If I give you an example, COVID itself, as you rightly pointed out, lawyers right in the beginning said, cannot work from home. No way, cannot. Okay, but today you'll be surprised that my biggest struggle is to actually try to bring them back to the office. And with the younger ones coming on board, so we practice a 3-day work in the office, 2 days working from home. So it's a hybrid work arrangement. Sounds beautiful, sounds wonderful, but again, behind the scenes, we've had to teach people how to communicate. You can't assume that 9 o'clock you're online, right? No, okay. But we need to also kind of manage the younger ones in terms of, we've had to teach people basically, you can't call somebody at 9 o'clock and say, are you online? Where's my deadline? So there's been a lot of teaching on the back end to making hybrid work arrangements successful. I will also say that with technology, it doesn't replicate working in the office. There are a lot of things that happens in the office. The hi, how are you? You look really good today. It doesn't happen online, and it just cannot be replicated. I've had people who've come on board during the hybrid work arrangement where everyone was from home. And then suddenly we looked at this person with a mask on. We couldn't recognize the person. So technology, COVID-19 has really taught us that, hey, we need to be agile, we need to be adaptable to where we are today. And I think in terms of hiring needs, who are we looking for, as far as the legal profession, right? I think adaptable, you need to be adaptable, you need to be agile, you need to be really, able to work in an environment that's forever changing, right? And yet stay true to the profession of lawyering, right? Because at the end of the day, that's really what they want to do. So yeah, I think there are positive takes with it. The law firm as well as candidates really have to learn how we're going to manage this relationship moving forward.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. I think you raised an excellent point about people having to learn how to manage such relationships in this new world here. On the point about these trends we've talked about, we are dealing largely with extraneous factors beyond our control. What I'd like to move next into actually is a bit more about the dynamics between lawyers. What sort of relationships are actually lawyers looking for? Because I think it's not unfair to say that lawyers pride, I think, the strong bonds at work as a key factor in terms of what they look for in the next job. On this, if I may turn the question to Chu and ask, generally, what do lawyers look out for in terms of a partner and associate dynamic?
Yeah, thanks, Clem. So I think when we talk about partner associate dynamics, maybe we need to dwell into the organization structure. So we categorize into something more hierarchical versus a more flat culture. Yeah, I think throwback 5 years ago, most firms would have adopted a more traditional setup, which is more hierarchical. Typically on a file, there will be a partner, an SA, and a junior associate. But I think gone are the days, because as we fast forward, 5 years on, more and more senior practitioners set up shop on their own. So some firms don't actually have the luxury to allocate 3 fee earners on one file per se. Yeah, so maybe what I can talk about is more of the benefits of having the beauty and the benefits of a hierarchical, traditional hierarchical setup. So definitely, I feel being in a hierarchical setup, it's a lot more efficient for the clients. You get to the outcome faster. But I think at the same time, this can also have a spillover effect for the culture wise, because juniors feels that they don't learn much. As junior associates these days, they feel that, oh, I'm just doing the research side of things. Not as exciting, right? And these days, people want to learn a lot more. They want to advance a lot faster, lah. But at the end of the day, I think some of them do appreciate, especially at junior level, the guidance, because instructions being trickled down can be a lot clearer. So we get to the outcome a lot faster. So it's definitely a more efficient way and a win-win situation for the juniors as well as the client. And then we look into the other side of the picture, right? When we talk about having a flat structure, I think juniors these days, some of them actually come up with very creative and innovative solutions. So giving them more autonomy at junior stage actually allows them to think out of the box. So it allows them to actually think beyond just the traditional approach of looking at things, which can be very helpful for some of the partners. In my catch up with some of the partners, they say, yeah, juniors, they say, let them think, let them brainstorm on their own rather than me spoon feeding them on the answers. Yeah, but again, then I think the downside of it would then be efficiency. Yeah, but all in all, I feel it's very practice determined, and also it depends on the size of the matters, because naturally speaking, if it's a large matter, client will also feel more comforted having a senior partner to be leading it, fronting it, and reviewing all the documents that get sent to them. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Nandu, actually, congratulations, belated of course, about your promotion to partner. But I think you will provide us, I think, a rare opportunity to glimpse at someone who was recently made a partner. If I may ask, what were your expectations pertaining to the dynamics of, as an associate with a partner, and now having been made a partner, has your expectations changed?
I would say it has definitely changed. Like Chuan said, right? When I first started out, it was a very hierarchical structure, and you start off at the bottom, and even then we used to say we used at this saying, as the lowest form of living thing in the law firm. Your job is to make sure that you do your work properly, such that you attract the attention of the partner, who will then be impressed, and they want to keep you. But I don't think that is really the case anymore, because you don't want to be known as the lowest form of living thing in the law firm. You are there to join a team. You're there to also learn from the others in the team. Yes, they are more experienced than you. You could be the most junior person, but it doesn't mean that your job is restricted to just research and just drafting the simple things. I think as I got older and got more involved in practice, I realized that it's a much nicer place to work where everyone sits together, we brainstorm together, and the most junior person, they might not have any clue as to what they are discussing, but they can actually ask, guys, what are you actually talking about? Can you just clue me in on this? And you don't want to explain to them why you're doing certain things, especially I work in commercial litigation cases, right? It can be very complex. It can have like many facets to a single case. So in terms of strategy, we discuss with the senior partner, of course, he's fronting it. We discuss with him, but we all have our roles to play. But it will actually help to have a discussion to know where exactly even the smallest contribution that you're making an associate goes towards. So that actually helps a lot. Because when I was a junior lawyer, I had the same problem. I was like, okay, what am I doing? Like, how is this helping the client? Because for a lot of us, we came into law school thinking that we want to help people, we want to help our clients. But when you don't see the direct impact of what you're doing, which is actually helping the client, you can get very disillusioned. So when I made partner, I reflected a lot on this. So when I had my own training, what I told her was, look, all these files they were working on, these are your clients, your files. Take them as it is. You're not just here to learn. This is not a school. So I'm not your teacher. Seriously, like I'm going to mentor you. We are all going to learn at the same time, because every case that comes to us is a novel case, is new, and we don't do really the run of the mill cases. So every time we have to go into research, we have to search for the answers. How are we going to get out of this? How are we going to resolve this for our clients? So when we work, I always tell her, think about it. Like, how do you think we should solve this? We have a discussion. Any ideas that she comes up with, we will talk it through. Why it works, why it wouldn't work, and yes, in terms of efficiency, maybe it's more efficient for me to just make all the decisions and then say, okay, do this. But what's the learning outcome, right? For a junior lawyer, I have to think about it in the long run. If I were to train her now, when she is a second or third year associate, she'll be able to run things on her own already. She'll be much faster than a person who is taking a step-by-step approach. You're slowly upgrading on the level of what they are doing. You get slightly more and more advanced. But if I've exposed her to everything from the start, I think at the end of the day, the learning curve might be easier on her. So that's my approach of the partner associate dynamics, and hopefully it works.
Thank you very much, Nandu, for your candor and honesty. I mean, I do think you raised many valid and important points here, especially I think in terms of in the long term. A lot of times I think many of the approach with regards to hiring or in terms of training might be short-term focus. Is it beneficial for the immediate work? But what I feel is that for majority of the younger lawyers or lawyers as a whole, the dynamic here is extremely important. Does my partner take into consideration what's good for me and for my career beyond just the immediate matter at hand? On this note here, I'd like to move on to our next topic, pertaining to what is attractive for lawyers. How do law firms attract suitable candidates? And similarly, how do candidates appeal to law firms by being attractive in terms of their curriculum vitae? On this note, I would like to ask Chuan, who is our resident expert, I think, in dealings with candidates, how would you help weigh and balance various factors, I think, of what draws a candidate to a law firm? For example, generally, I would say three main factors would be salary, it would be your career progression, it would be perhaps autonomy, as you mentioned, Nandu, which are important. Are these all important? Is there a balance? Some more important than the others? Over to you.
Yeah, sure. So I think what I can break it down is maybe share from an associate perspective. And again, associate is quite a broad range. So maybe look at, starting from juniors, fresh grad, right? I think a lot of times they enter into the market very green. It's very scary, first time entering the corporate world. But if we were to really drill it down, right, what's scary to them is that they don't know what they don't know. So they are like, okay, I have no idea where to start off with. So I guess what they appreciate is more guidance, mentorship, and that comes in the form of maybe clearer instructions, because sometimes, as seniors, right, you have done it so many times. So when you give an instruction to you, it's very intuitive, but to juniors, they are like, oh, but it's my first time doing it. So I think that brings me to my next point, having a safe space to ask questions and make mistakes. I think this is extremely important. And I think particularly for disputes, right? You don't want to be making the mistakes in a trial. You want to be making the mistake in the office. So I think when you talk about how you guys sit down together in a team, regardless of seniority, I think that would really help the junior to learn, even if he or she is clueless about what's happening, what's the discussion about. Yeah, so I think at junior level, what they're really looking at, it's more of the more of the guidance, the mentorship. But as you gain PQE, so let's talk about maybe somewhere at senior associate level for PQE and above. I think what they will be looking out for, it's more autonomy, I think trust and career prospect lah. Then when we talk about career prospect, it's looking at whether or not the firm has there's a visibility towards partnership. Is there a clear roadmap to you? Like, need to know whether or not they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They need to know what they're working towards, have a goalpost for them. So I guess, as you gain more seniority, that would shift a little. And it's a given that your technical foundation, it's already there. Yeah. And then likewise, if you look at for partners, what they are typically looking out for would be someone who is a little bit more, I would say, proactive rather than reactive. They want associate to think 2 steps ahead. You shouldn't be just looking at the matter as it is, but you should be more preemptive as be like, okay, this might happen. So you look at it from a flowchart perspective, right? So that you're always prepared. And again, I think that applies for disputes, right? So that when something explodes, you are like, don't worry, I got this. We can always have a contingency plan per se. Yeah. So I think how, or rather successful cases or successful law firms in the market, what they do is really to bridge the gap in terms of these 2 expectations, what assocs are expecting and what partners are expecting. And typically these firms would thrive well because I think once expectations and the gaps are bridged, then both parties feels that one side is learning, there's a lot for them to learn, and one side is giving, they feel that associates are like their trusted right-hand man. Yeah, so I think those will be the few factors that they're looking out for.
I understand. Thank you very much, Shuan. Nandu, actually, on this note here, what I'd like to understand a bit more, if I could rewind a couple of years, back when you were an associate prior to joining to RHT, if I may ask, what about the firm or the firm's message attracted you to join the firm?
Is what Chuan said, right? When you hit about 3-4 year PQE, I actually joined RHT when I was a 3rd year PQE. So what really attracted me was the autonomy, because when in my first year of practice, I was doing hearings every day. So Monday to Friday, I was in court. And when you do a lot of these hearings, you sort of learn faster, and you know where you have made mistakes, and then you know that's where you learn, right? When you're being scolded in open court, there's it's a very bad experience, but it's also a very good learning experience. You know that you will never do that same mistake again, ever. So to me, I learned a lot faster, and subsequently I realized that I don't really get that kind of experience anymore. I don't get to go to court that much. I'm always doing the back end work, and I'm the kind of person who, obviously, I like to talk, right? So I want to go to court. I want to argue the cases myself, but I wasn't getting the opportunity at that point in time, which is why I wanted to switch. And of course, what really attracted me about RHT is the fact that they gave me the opportunity. They trusted me with the cases. They sort of believed that I was capable of doing it, and that's what really made me work hard all these years. Because I mean, all of us work hard, and we are getting paid for it. But it's also nice to know that we are being appreciated for our work. So whenever I do something, my boss will say, "Hey, this is a really good strategy. It's brilliant that you thought of this. I think you did a great job at the hearing." Sometimes it's not about win and lose, right? Sometimes the case is just that you cannot win it, but have you made the best possible attempt for your client? Have you made the best arguments you can? And that's what's important. And he always tell us, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay if you've lost it. But I think you did a great job. I read your submissions. I think it was well done." Those kind of words really help you, because it's quite a stressful environment. I have to say, the work itself can be very stressful. So it is always good to have a nice working environment, people who are encouraging, people who are supportive. So that's really important to me. And that's actually the reason why I've stayed on for like 5 years now with RHT. Because anytime I have a bad hearing, I'll come out and then I will vent. Then the secretaries all be like, oh, what happened? And then, it becomes like a sharing section. And then we will discuss, okay, what could we have done better? What went wrong? And sometimes it's not really about what we have done, but how are we going to convey this to client and things like that. Is day-to-day life, but also it makes it interesting when people around you are supportive of you. They say, okay, you know what, it's okay, let's take a break, let's go out for ice cream and then come back and then we'll continue working. So those kind of things makes you want to come back to work every day. And like I said, the reason why I joined law school is because I can help people. And now I can see how I'm impacting my clients, how I'm helping people. I just want to continue doing that in a good environment. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nandu. That's very nice to hear. I think you touched on very important points here. I mean, especially about what made you join the firm. It seems to me you raised a lot of points about what made you stay in the firm at point of entry. I would say it's not unfair for lawyers to consider how long you would stay within the firm to assess whether if you should join the firm, if I may say so. On this note, actually, I would like to move on to the next topic. Because to my mind, I feel that many law firms, in fact, many companies, place due emphasis on making sure they attract the right and most suitable talent for themselves. As a recruiter, I would say perhaps where is lacking generally is that having taken all the effort to find the right person, they may not have taken active and or frequent steps to ensure that these talents within your company are happy, fulfilled in their career, and there is a supportive environment. On this note, actually, I would like to ask Agnes a question. Is there a best method for talent retention? And flowing from that, how should we go about implementing talent retention measures?
So the best method for talent retention is money. No, I kid, right? In fact, I think that's the biggest misconception that a lot of companies, law firms or otherwise have. Money is not it. It's far more than money. Money is very helpful for attracting talent, but once the talent is in, it's usually the last thing, right? It is a lot more than that. I would say, I think like what Nandu mentioned earlier, a positive reinforcement helps a lot. You go to court, you have a shitty day, but your partner is there telling you, don't worry, you do better. You come back to a work environment, your secretaries are asking you how are things going on, let's go for ice cream. I think nothing beats that. But I think further to that, what we recognize is there's no clear path, or rather it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think a curated career path is probably what really brings about for talent retention. We talk a lot about, especially for a typical lawyer, you guys watch on TV on Suits, like, I'm a young associate, I'm going to make partner, I want to climb the corporate ladder. It doesn't work like that anymore. Not everyone wants to climb the corporate ladder. We hear a lot of the term about corporate jungle, right? People move from one to another. It's no longer about climbing a ladder. So it could be like what I mentioned earlier, there are alternative career paths, right? I could be an associate, I could be a fee earner. There could be one day where I go like, you know what, I love the academia side of it. I want to be a knowledge management lawyer. I'm still using what I'm doing. And there are different seasons of life. So I could get married, have kids. I really don't want to have to deal with the stress of the billable. Once our kids are settled, I would just turn around and just say, hey, maybe I want to be a partner now. Maybe I want to be a rainmaker now. And I think that's actually the best way. If the lawyer feels that, look, you're hearing them, you're listening to them, I don't necessarily want to, gun for the partnership as with everyone. I get that 100% that pays me more, but maybe that's just not something I want. So we also see the trend of a lot of practicing lawyers moving out to go in-house, and then a lot of them move back. And they move back to, they could be a senior associate, they could come in at the counsel level. So it's really about recognizing and respecting the fact that every individual go through different seasons of life, right? There could be personalities who are great at being a partner and what it entails when I'm a fifth yearer. And there are those who need to be a good 25 PQE before I'm a full-fledged proper partner, right? I think if a law firm or any company actually goes about to set that tone, that look, this is what we are, we recognize and see you as an individual, then that's the best way to actually retain talent. And in terms of implementing it, I think it really, I think like what Nanu say, right? It's from the bottom, like not the lowest life form part, but the associate, nothing is more powerful than a young associate feeling this way, feeling appreciated, and obviously the tone being set from the top, right? My managing partner, my CEO is saying that, look, I understand that you have, family issues that you deal with, go ahead, we will try to, as best as we can, that is commercially viable, put in resources to help a particular practice group. So money definitely helps, but I think having a curated career path, recognizing that each individual is different, then I think that's actually some of the best talent retention methods.
Thank you very much, Agnes. If I may ask a little bit more about what you've shared, I think it's important that these methods must be curated for the individual in question. In terms of practical application here, how feasible it is to curate such approaches for each and every individual? Then, would a standardized approach be, dare I say, more comfortable for firms to implement?
Therein lies the, I think, contradiction, right? You can't quite have curated and then have a standardized. But I think to make it, yes, as a general rule of thumb, we can kind of segregate everybody, XPQE and below at a certain life stage. Then yes, we could have kind of a standardized form. But to your point, so the answer will be no, in that it has to be every single individual. So you can maybe have a kind of a rough framework, but every single individual would then have to also take their own initiative to say, hey, actually, I want to tweak it a little bit this way, I want to tweak it a little bit that way. I mean, in that sense, overall, I think what the particular talent needs to, or that law firm needs to have, maybe you have to be very clear about what is the North Star of this law firm. And every single individual would know, okay, this is what the law firm is going to do for you, and then let's work towards that together. Right? And Nabi mentioned about autonomy given to her, so she appreciated that. I think what a law firm can have is, you can have a general framework, you provide the structure, but you allow the autonomy for the individual to basically carve out his or her own career path, because their desires and their needs and their aspirations change as time goes by. I think that's probably the best kind of standardized framework that one can have. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Agnes. I think nothing is certain except for we are all different.
Yeah.
If I may move on to Nandu, if I may ask. I mean, in light of retention, I would say that the legal profession suffers from heavy attrition. I think it is easy to say that lawyers have, a rather stressful life and a very hectic day. And I want to understand what keeps you in the fight when the going gets tough.
Definitely, right? Okay, so like I said, it's also about whether am I doing something that gives me a purpose in life, right? So I wanted to help people. Am I helping people? If I can see that, I just want to continue doing the work. But having said that, I also like the commercial litigation work, because it's very challenging and there's a lot of strategy involved. To me, it's like playing a strategy game, right? Like how best to play this game so that your client becomes a winner at the end of it. And that's what we are all doing. And not everybody likes this kind of work. So we do have some associates who come and tell me, I don't like it when we all sit down and discuss, and then you guys ask me, what's your take? Do you have anything? I would rather you just tell me what to do, and then I'll just do that. So every individual is different. I think, since our topic is about what law school doesn't prepare you for, right? As law student, I guess you also have to think about what is your style of learning, what do you want to achieve in life, what makes you happy. That's how I go about it. Like, what makes me happy? Does work make me happy? Yes, it does. Do I want to continue doing this? Then I'll just continue doing that. Other things like, the money that affords you the opportunity to go on holidays. And I would say holiday is also part of coping mechanism in the work. Like every few months, we will take off, then the others will cover. And as far as my team is concerned, we try not to disturb the person who's on leave, because we believe that you need the rest so that you can come back and then you can work full scale. And it really helps having the rest. So I agree with Agnes's point that you need to have a curated approach. Not everybody is the same. Not everybody has the same motivation. Because when I was an associate, I know that some of my other colleagues, they wanted to get the highest paying job because they had student loans. They needed to make sure that they have enough funds for their aging parents. So these things are important. And in a law firm, as much as you feel like, okay, I've heard of lawyers to oversee, there are also individual concerns that everyone has. So it would be good, if we get to know each other, like what does this person want to achieve? What is important to this person? Is it money? Is it time with family? Is it having a sense of purpose? So I think getting to know the person and then curating a pathway for them, that's really helpful. When I joined RHT, I didn't have any plans to become a partner. Actually, I always tell my boss I just want to be a senior associate because this is the job that I like. I like doing this. I don't want to become a partner. Then I have to manage people. Then I have to do this and that. No, I don't want. But they were always telling me, I think you should look ahead. I think you're capable of it. You like to mentor the juniors. And as a partner, you have a lot of opportunity to do that. And you also like to, do this type of work where you strategize, you try to find the best way. That's what partner does also, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. So, having somebody mentor you through this really helps. And I would say my advice to junior lawyers would be find a mentor for yourself. A person who can guide you along. Not all of us come out of law school knowing what we want to do. A lot of us just coast along, and then when we hit a bad experience, that turns us off practice. Actually, if you ask me about the high attrition rate, it is probably the reason why a lot of the juniors, once they hit a bad spot or they have found themselves in a law firm that doesn't really fit what they want or their needs, they just give up and then say, okay, that's about it. I'm not going to practice anymore. So it will help to have a mentor. I think there are enough senior lawyers around to just approach them to say, hey, can you help me out? I'm a junior at this law firm. Can you become my mentor? I would like to know more about practice. We can just reach out, and I think we are all nice enough people, like Jack, to offer our guidance and help. So I think we can all make it sustainable for the juniors to stay on in practice.
Understand. Thank you very much, Nandu. I do think it takes two hands to clap. In as much as the associate would like to be retained, I think the environment and the partner, the actions as well, go a long way in terms of retaining the talent that is trying to be retained as well. If I may actually have a question for Jacqueline, if you don't mind. When we speak, you regularly raise the term adversity quotient. How is someone, likely to be able to, be retained regardless of the circumstances? From a HR perspective, how do you assess for their tenacity, for their ability to be, stoic in the face of difficulty at the interview stage?
I think, first of all, I don't like the word interview because every time I say interview, they all have these prepared questions and answers and check kind of a thing. So usually for me, one of the things we do is I always tell people it's a discussion. At the end of the day, it's a discussion about your career. What is it that you want? Okay, what I have, I can give you a job, a career that you want. May not be what you're looking for. So for me at that stage, usually for us, we spend a lot of time talking to potential candidates and people, and basically trying to find out what is it that you're looking for, right? How do you work, right? What's your preferred, in your mind, where are you going to be 1, 2, 3 years from today? And does it fit with what I can offer you? And sometimes I have to be very realistic to tell them, I believe you're super talented, but we are wrong fit. And for some, you will have people who come to tell you, hey, you know what? We're kind of there. I'm not quite who you want, but you know what? With a little bit of push and guidance and mentoring, I'll get there. And we can see this, the kind of questions that they ask, the thought process, helps us to determine whether or not we feel, okay, this one chances a bit higher lah. Right. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really, so I always tell people in a discussion, build the relationship, get to know the people, get to know what they want. I think one more thing with this is sometimes I have to manage, our own partners. And sometimes I tell them this, we may not hire the person today. You know what? We made such a good impression, they'll come back, right? 1, 2, 3 years from today. And that's what we want at the end of the day. Legal industry in Singapore is actually not really very big. It's kind of like, you kind of cross paths at some point, right? And so I think at every point, it's really about creating powerful experiences, positive vibes, and building the relationship, right? And that's going to really take us through.
I understand. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. If I will move on, I mean, beyond just retaining the talent, I would say that I think succession planning is crucial to any industry, any company, beyond just the law firms. I think what we do with the talent that has been retained makes or breaks, I think, the company's long-term future. On that note, I think many lawyers have, as Agnes mentioned, probably the impression from suits about how their career is going to be like glamorous. Once you hit partner level, you'd be swanning around, But if I may ask, I mean, progression is quite subjective, as is development. Would you agree with the term different strokes for different folks? Should this be the approach to grooming talent in the legal industry?
So 100%, I think like what I mentioned about retaining talent, it should be curated equally. Grooming talent, it should be curated as well. I mean, some of the usual things that a lot of law firms have done is secondment, right? Secondment in-house, usually to a legal team, but obviously we also hear of secondments in-house to companies where they don't have to sit with the legal team. You can sit with the deal team, right? A lot of lawyers love deal structuring. They want to sit with the investment guys who sit with the deal team, sit with the compliance team. Any team, I think secondment can come in different forms, or even secondment with law firms or basically partner law firms that are overseas. If we don't have an overseas office, Nandu was very kindly sharing with us when she went to an Amsterdam office and she was like on her camera, and folks in the Singapore office were like, let's check out who they are. I think things like that. I think it's a great testament, I think, to basically RHT culture where, the associate in Singapore can live vicariously through Nandu. But I think that's a common experience that I think, why she appreciates about RHT. And this is a way where you groom the talent, right? You make the talent feel appreciated, that you're giving him or her a lot of different opportunities as well. I think another way to groom talent, again, Nandu has mentioned, I think Chua mentioned earlier as well, it's very powerful to have a mentor. And a mentor can come in a very different form. I think a lot of people feel that, my mentor would be the senior partner with grey hair. No, right? It could be a senior lawyer, 100%. That makes more sense. A mentor can come in the form of a peer, right? It could appear from another practice group, like, hey, that guy has been doing well. Maybe I'm in dispute. Some guys in M&A, he seems to be going well. Just go down for a beer. This guy could be your quote-unquote mentor. It could be a buddy system in some way. So basically, if a law firm has a certain approach, I mean, you don't have to make it a contrived, like, it has to be a mentor-mentee kind of relationship. Or even outside of your law firm, right? Maybe a senior partner could point out that, hey, actually someone else could be your mentor, could be a sponsor of you. I think those are... So essentially, law firms equally to the younger lawyer, you want to groom yourself. You also want your law firm to groom you. So it has to cut both ways. And I think back to why the mentorship program is very powerful is that it's not just the mentee who benefits from it. The mentor himself benefits a lot from it. I think this is the best way. You're invested in another individual. You see the person grow. And this is actually the best way of, back to our earlier point about retaining the person. Right, you feel like you have grown and evolved from an associate to a senior associate, and now you're kind of giving back to what some of the younger folks are doing. So I think on the personal side, on the grooming side, the mentorship, then obviously on a more practical approach, all of this. And another point about mentor, what Nandu mentioned earlier, I mean, I'm saying that kind of resonates a lot with me. I think as a people manager, a lot of our team members will say, can you just tell me the answer, right? And you're like, oh my God, I have to be patient. Like, no, what do you think, right? And I think that's the approach to grooming talent. Like, patience is a lot, right? We just want to give them 1,001 ways of, this is how we do it. Let me give you the 5,000 solution that comes to that. But I think being patient and asking the question actually allows a way of grooming a talent, actually allowing him or her to have that space. I think Chuan mentioned, have that safe space to make mistake, but also have that space to have that creativity to come up with solutions that people from my generation would never come up with, right? And I have Clement here, and I always use this example. When I started recruitment back in the day, there was no LinkedIn, right? So all my solutions are driven towards kind of real time, whatever is out there. And when I started having to use LinkedIn, he started recruitment, right? And there are 1,001 things that I don't. But I guess giving that space to let them self-groom, I think like what I mentioned sounds wrong, but but to basically come up with solutions themselves, I think it goes both ways, and it just creates a very well-rounded approach, not just for the individual grooming the talent, but for the individual himself or herself. Yeah.
Understand. Thank you very much, Agnes. If I may, I have several follow-up questions from this line of thought. The first being, in essence, it must be stressful for the partner to have a curated approach pertaining to grooming and retention for each and every employee that you work with. Is there a best way to balance, I think, the stresses for the partner if the grooming is so tailored for the associate? I'm sure you would have to have switched mindsets and switched personalities, almost schizophrenic in approach, in terms of dealing with a large team then. Would you have any advice, perhaps from your personal experience in managing a large team? How can you effectively groom and nurture individuals within a team?
Outsource. Yes, I think to your point, a lot of time, I think the main thing is what I mentioned earlier, to be patient, but also humility. Right? I have to swallow my ego. I think a lot of partners do that. In fact, I hear a lot of associates who speak very well of their partners who groom them. It's like, wow, I can just say this to him and he won't be angry. Dude, obviously he's angry. He's just like swallowing his word, but letting you be you. And eventually when you appreciate him for it, then that's great. So I think to your point, partners, managers like myself, we're all schizophrenic to a certain extent. That's why we drink. But I think when I mentioned earlier about outsourcing, and I know a lot of partners do this equally for myself as well, I outsource to fellow team members. So hey, you can talk to that guy, you can talk to that guy. It's also infinitely more powerful when it doesn't come from someone in a position of authority, when it comes from a peer, when it comes from a senior, because he would have done it not too far away from like a partner does, right? So like a partner have been doing this for the last 20 years, right? If you tell a senior associate who've been doing it for the last 5 years to tell a third year, then the third year might be more receptive to it because, you've done it recently. If not, whatever the partner is saying, or the third year is hearing like, back in the day, this is what we do, right? So I think that's one way to bridge grooming the talent. It doesn't have to, certain messages doesn't necessarily have to come from you. Obviously, that's where HR comes in, right? So I'm sure Jacqueline has gone through your fair share of, Jacqueline, can you please go and tell so and so? Because it's not overly invested. HR usually comes in as a neutral party. So a lot of people are a lot more receptive to it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Jacqueline, I have a question for you on this note here, if I may ask. How does RHT Law invest in your people? And perhaps more importantly, how do you discern who to invest in given finite resources?
I think the topic going on is actually very apt and very current. I can say a lot of things, but to the point itself, how do we really invest in people? I think again, rightly pointed out, right? Curated career paths. I think we have to recognize the fact that not everybody wants to go in one direction, and partnership is really not something that everybody wants. And I think for us, a few things. One, HR, for us, outsource, we are the outsourced person now. So basically, HR does both sides of it. We manage the staff, meaning the junior staff coming in. We also have to manage, partners and some of the older folks in the office. And few things. One, it's about creating meaningful jobs. Meaning, like Nandu pointed out, I have no idea what am I doing. I have no idea why am I even doing this, But it's actually reinforcing on both sides to say there is actually light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to get there. but it's also encouraging partners to basically articulate that, and tell them, hey, look, you're here, this is where we kind of want to be, and this is really your contribution towards the entire project. And we encourage people to basically articulate that. We also want to create safe, psychologically safe environments where it's okay to make mistakes as long as it doesn't cost $1 million. Okay, but it's okay occasionally to make a mistake. And, how do we manage mistakes? How do we flag such things? So we always say you praise publicly and then everything else behind the door. And, you can expect this. But if you're very objective about, I really want you to do well, and I need to point this out to you, then I think these are things that we do. HR is basically the outsource. We manage both sides, to help them to see that actually you need to kind of look at it from the other point of view, and there is meaning behind it, right? So don't take everything too emotional. Don't be too sensitive about everything you hear. And then for those who really truly want to become partners, okay, we do have a plan. So Nandu was the first batch, right, on the partnership program. And here we've basically curated a 2-year journey from becoming a senior associate to actually becoming a partner. It's a lot of things that go into becoming a partner. It's more than lawyering. And so during this, the first year, we actually have a coach, an external coach that comes in to help you to raise your level of awareness of what kind of a leader are you, your personality, the way you deal with stress, the way you communicate, the way you manage a team, and so on. So customized test that was done. And then, so you get the theory part, and then you get the practical, and then one-on-one coaching. And this is over a period of a year. Besides self-awareness and all of this, there are other pillars, or there are other parts of becoming a lawyer. Business and development, meaning, business is not going to land on your table when you open the door. You basically need to learn how to build client relations. How do you understand it from the customer's point of view, and so on. So it's a lot of work that goes on into basically raising the level of awareness, right, and giving you frameworks, theories to how you do that. Then you've got communication skills, you've got the financial part of it. So how you're going to run your books and make sure you're profitable, and managing a team. Okay, and this whole entire journey, you are sponsored by a partner within the firm itself, and they will handhold you, mentor, buddy you, give you a lifeline every now and then, take you out for ice cream and drinks. And so that's a 1-year program. And then after that, it continues. So it's really a 2-year program before you meet officially a partner here. So I think we are very proud of this. We've spent a lot of time, trial and error, talking to people and so on. But definitely the firm invests. And I think one of the approaches that we also have is, when we talk to a lot of the young people that come in to the industry, our stand is always, come talk to us, let us help you to build your career in the legal industry. It's not just, us, but really the legal industry. And there's so many different roles that you can do with your legal knowledge, right? So let's explore, let's look at that, right? And so that's how we do it. Or we try. We're still trying.
Thank you very much, Jack. On to, perhaps the second part of the question here. How do you determine who among the associate pool is worthy to be groomed or to be a future partner? I'm sure not all associates are created equal. For the associates, I think it's important to understand, how do you be that person to be groomed?
I think, first of all, the senior associate has to want it. Because the reality is there are some who just tell you, I like it. Like in Nandu's case, right? It took a bit of persuading, I think you can do it, And so we also have off-council. We also have, subject matter experts, knowledge centers, and so on. And to each his own path, right? And so conversations will take place. You have to be sponsored. You have to be nominated, basically, to join this program. You speak to the managing partner. He'll, basically ask you, what is it that you're looking for? How you think you're going to be successful. So it's I wouldn't say step 1, step 2, step 3, right? But it is it's a conversation that you need to own it, and you want it, and then we will help you get there, to get to wherever you want to be, right? We've also put people through the partnership program, but they've not been made partner. But the knowledge is not wasted. because the knowledge is something that you take with you, and you help to build other teams, and you help inspire other associates, senior associates, to basically take that path, right? And so I think it's a very holistic approach in that sense. At the end of the day, I think we have to be guided by the candidates, by the associates, as to what is it that they want at the end of the day, right? So
I understand. Back to being a tailor and specific approach, I think, to the issue here. Nambu, actually, since you've been a beneficiary of such a program, and it seems honestly quite interesting, if I may ask, I mean, to steal your coach's lunch money, what would you say is 3 main points you've gotten out of the training program?
Okay, so maybe I give you a background on how the coaching actually works, because then you can appreciate how we go about it. So firstly, right, every one of us take the MBTI test, not the online one. It's a much more in-depth one. It's quite intensive, and we also take another test to find out about our leadership styles. So we do this initially, and once there's some clear idea to our coach about what type of a person are you, how do you naturally tend to react to things, then not all of us react in the right way. Sometimes, of course, I get angry. Then if I just vent out that anger at my associate, that's not going to be very helpful. So how do I manage myself? So that's one thing. So that's the first point, right? How do you manage yourself first? How do you manage your emotions? How do you manage your expectations? And how are you going to manage the team that you're going to build? So that's one aspect of it is internal. How do you manage yourself first? And then the second aspect of it is how do you manage others? So, when you have a team, you have like different personalities. One person who's a night owl, he always churns out work at night. And you have another person who is early in the morning, when you wake up already, you wake up to like 5, 6 emails, and they're looking to you for directions. And how do you manage all these different people? And some people, they like talking to clients. Some people, they don't like talking to clients. Some people like going to court. Some people, they don't. How do you manage all these personalities? Because now the shoes on the other side, right? Because now you are the person who is supposed to be helping and grooming others. Because before that it was me, right? So it was my partner telling me, hey, you need to do this. I think that you will make a good partner. Now I have to go back and then tell my associate, look, you're doing a great job. Do this. And if they're not doing right in some aspects, then I need to point out to them and encourage them to do better and help them find out how they can do better. So things like that. So managing others, and then the third aspect of it, I think, has to do with the commercial aspect, because as much as we are all here to help and have a great time together, are we making money? And because that's how we pay ourselves, we have to make enough money for our bonus, our support staff, people who are not the fee earners. We have to earn enough to actually sustain the practice. So how do we ensure that? So how do we interact with clients? How do we go about getting new clients? Things like that. I have to honestly say, at certain points, I come out of an extrovert, but at some point I had to ask Asma, no, like if I were to go for a dinner, how do I get to talk to these people? Like, what do I tell them? And then he was like, just be yourself. And I was like, but how? How are they going to give me their legal matters if I just go for a dinner and say hi? He said, no, it's about letting them know that you exist, and you introduce yourself, and at any point in time, you just maintain that relationship. You don't go in there expecting them to just, oh, hi, I like your face here. I have a piece of work for you. That's not the way it works. Things like that you don't really learn as a lawyer, right? Because as an associate, you're just focused in on doing your own work. All this takes a bit more practice and a bit more of socializing, for example. So that's the third aspect that we learn. Like in terms of commercial aspect, how are we going to make sure that we have a successful practice? Because promotion is one thing. Am I doing justice to the promotion? Am I earning enough to sustain the practice? Am I earning enough to feed my associate, to make sure that she has a good career. Now that I have a maid partner, I also need to make sure that she progresses well. So like we have the kind of cases that we want to do. So things like that. That's the third aspect of it.
Thank you very much. I think you touched on many good points. I think chief among them is that ultimately the profession is a business. At the end of the day, perhaps, elevating yourself to the partnership level requires commercial awareness, as you put it, a strong interpersonal dynamics. Without the privilege and benefit of external coaching, for a junior lawyer who aspires to be a partner, aspires to be a rainmaker, are there any steps you would advise for them to start taking now?
Okay, so this is something that I'm practicing now, because I realized that as an associate, I was so focused in on doing my work, and I didn't really bother thinking about what am I going to do later on as a partner. But now with my own associate and also the other associates in the firm, whenever I get invited to an event as a partner, I will always ask them, are there space for the associates? So I actually bring them along to the events, and they have attended at least 3 events this year already. And I mean, sometimes, in the first few events, we were all awkward. Okay, so I have to say, we were just sitting down there, like looking around. And what my boss did was that he will come by, and then he will introduce us to the people around, and then he will say, oh, she's a very good lawyer, she's great. And then that's how you get to know the other people there. Because otherwise, all the lawyers, we were all sticking together, and then we were just like talk among ourselves. It's not really really helpful, right? So it took a few events for us to get comfortable, for the associates to get comfortable. And then I think the last event that we went, it was like about 2 weeks ago. And then the associate started going up to the clients and say, hey, I'm the person who has been emailing you. And then finally you get to put a face to the name that you see in emails. And they got quite comfortable talking to them. And at the end of it, I could see that it became much more easier. You don't have to wait until you're a partner to do it. Of course, I waited until I became a partner, but I think it could have been made easier. But also, I have to say, when I was an associate, they did ask me to go for the events, but I was also always very resistant. Maybe because I didn't have a bridge in between me and the partner to say, hey, you know what, we can go together, we can have fun together. So it was more like, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to. It'll be all old people. So I don't want to go. So now I tell the associate, hey, I'm going, let's go together. At least if it turned out to be very boring, at least we will have fun together. And it actually got them to go. And I'm happy to say that the associates from the other departments actually reached out to me afterwards to say, hey, I saw that you guys had a lot of fun. Hey, next event, can we also go? Yeah, of course. It's open to everybody in the firm. So, if you're interested, let's all go together. So I think it helps to have that platform. For other firms, I don't know whether they have such opportunities. But I think as an associate, try and get to know more people. Try to find somebody who can mentor you, who will be able to open up these doors for you. If it's not within the same firm, at least other avenues are there as well. Yeah, because not every firm will have the opportunity, right? And some of them, they work in a small firm, and just try to find somebody who can give you that.
I understand. Thank you very much, Nandu. Well, so I think we are running short for time, as I understand it, and we'll look to wrap up this conversation here. I have, as 2023 looms near, what sort of advice, if I may ask Chuan, would you give to those who are looking to hire and those who look to get hired in the market in 2023?
Yeah, thanks, Clem. So I think for me, the best advice I can give to hiring partners as well as associates is to reach out to me right after this webinar. Chuan at Kerry Consulting. Okay, but jokes aside, I think this is where headhunter come into play, right? Even if there isn't an immediate need for hiring, or even for associates who are not considering an immediate move, lah. So I think for partners' perspective, we have all been in talks about a pending recession. So I guess it's important for them to have a business continuity plan. I think alongside with the HR, headcount planning, budgeting, and I guess bonus season's coming. Maybe look into potential flight risks. I mean, the reality is there will be a point where some people decided that practice is not for them, and they want to move in-house. So I guess, are we prepared for that? Being able to be preemptive in that regard would help us cope in such a situation better, so that you wouldn't be overloading your existing staff and cause them unnecessary stress during such time. So always be prepared from a headcount planning perspective. And I guess from an associate standpoint, I think Agnes, Nandu have talked about how I think today we have witnessed a lot of lawyers moving out to in-house and then back to practice. So it's true, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Every firm have their own, fair share of problems. It's more of what suits you, right? So I guess from a candidate standpoint, also always be prepared. Knowing what's out there in the market wouldn't hurt. I think it's also it strengthens your position as to whether or not you are sure you want to make partner, like this is where you want to head towards, or maybe to a certain extent you're facing certain issues, and maybe have a partner or have a peer to talk about. Maybe you don't hate practice, it's just during a certain period, right, where it's just very, very stressful for you, and you have a lot of pent up frustration, but it's not really the work, you're actually passionate about the work. Yeah, so in my conversations with a lot of guys, when we sit down and we talk about it, at the start they were very frustrated, and towards the end they were like, yeah, you're right. Actually, I love the work. It's just that it's been a very tough time and took a toll, on their mentality, and things like that. So I guess it's really important to also have a neutral party like myself to really help to sieve out the facts, and I guess sharing more about the legal landscape, because the truth is that's our job. We do this all day, so we are this is our specialization per se. Yeah.
Thank you, Chun. Ladies and gentlemen, please do reach out to Chun where possible. But on that note, actually, I'd like to share, beyond just reaching out for external help, Agnes here is actually also a much lesser known fact. She's actually a career consultant, a career coach, one that I've actually often come to for counsel and advice. What would you give as a piece of advice for those who are looking to move a job in 2023? What should they consider perhaps, and what are the key criteria they should look at?
I usually ask quite a loaded question that I think a lot of people don't have the answer to. I ask the question, do you even know what's your primary identity? Are you first and foremost a lawyer? Are you a father? Are you a son? Are you a husband? Right? So if you feel that, and there's no right or wrong answer, but if first and foremost I'm a father, I have to make a living for my children of a certain lifestyle, then perhaps immediately I need to make partner, because I need to make money for my kids, because I want to make sure that they have a certain lifestyle, or a husband where maybe my wife or partner wants me, so on and so forth. So that's and a lot of times people just look at me bewildered and like, what are you talking about? Right? Because it's difficult, and in fact there might not even be a core primary identity. We are one of all of these identities, but you have to make sure that if whatever that's a primary identity, and usually being a lawyer is not the first one, which is again fine, but if you know what it is, then it's fine. So for example, if I'm first and foremost a husband, and all my wife wants me is for me to be happy, then maybe it's fine that I don't go down the partnership route. Give me some time to go out and figure it out, and then like what we talk about might come back. So that's actually that. If obviously there's a lot that goes behind it that Nandu went to 1 year of, but actually that could be it's a year-end time, time for thinking through your resolutions and all that. Think about it, right? What is your primary identity?
Thank you very much, Agnes. I think this is a question for the ages, right? Know yourself. The hardest question of them all, if I may add. Jacqueline, actually, if I may turn to yourself and Nandu for the next question here, since we are about to wrap up. If I may ask, what does RHT Law have planned for the next year?
I think for us, and I'm going to let Nandu continue, after I'm going to say a couple of things. I think for us, 2023 is going to be the start of a brand new year. We are aggressively going to want to outreach, talk to many people. We're rebuilding parts of, practices. We want to rebuild, or we want to be the law firm of the future. Exactly what that is, it's moving parts in a moving economy with so many things that are, changing every day. But I think networking, building relationships, being clear of, what is it that you want at the end of the day, and then come talk to us. We are open to conversations. I think that's definitely it. In the office space, I think we are looking a lot at how do I curate experiences, right? For my staff, telling them to come back to the office is just not going to cut it. As you read the papers, we have breakfast now, we have Spirits Wednesdays. Yes, which, I will invite you for the next round.
Yes, please, thank you.
Christmas edition coming in. So, it's creating moments where we can gather and it's not all about work anymore. It is about friends. It's about, this is why I go to work. Yes, I go to work for money, for a job, for a career, but there are all these other things. Cool office, we have a green room. Okay, you don't see it as green, but it's green. It's very green. It's a comfortable workspace with enough space for you to grow and develop your career the way you want it. So I think, we are going to be looking at, aggressive outreach for sure, and curating experiences throughout 2023. Right?
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Okay. I mean, Jack is more on the macro level, right? So on a micro level, what I really want to do with the firm is to basically do a lot more of the outreach programs. We have interns coming in, right? And we try to give them a good experience when they come in. But at the same time, we have been doing more of the events where we reach out to the universities, and then we want to know the law students. Because it's not just about our firm. We also see a lot of people leaving practice altogether, or they get their law degree and they want nothing to do with law. So it's such a waste, right? Right?
Right now.
We're all looking at you. So it's such a waste if they were to leave the legal sphere altogether. So we try as much as possible to give them the encouragement to just try. Don't give up just because you don't like that particular law firm that you're at, or you just don't like the particular style or the partner is working with. Just explore, find a right space for you, and then because we all took the subject on a certain basis, right? Because we liked it, we want to help people. So of course, we want to see people live out their passion and to achieve what they actually wanted to do with their life. So that is something that that I think we are trying to do more of, like outreach with the students, do more of this. And of course, it's easier for us to reach out to the local unis because they are there, and we already have partnership with them. But those who come from, especially those who graduate from overseas universities and they come here to practice, if they know people from their university, the alumni, that's great. But a lot of them, they don't. So when they come here, they only have each other to rely on. And sometimes that's not really enough, and they find it difficult to find mentors. So I think that's something that I'm looking at, to see whether there's any platform where we can reach out to them, where we lend them a helping hand in terms of guiding them. Like Jack said, it doesn't mean if they don't join you now, it doesn't mean that they will never join you. So it's about creating good impressions of the firm with the students, and hopefully, at any point in time, they feel that, what, maybe I can come and work at RHT. I think their working style or their management style is something that suits me. That'd be great.
Thank you, Nandu. Actually, since Chu had raised and used this platform for her benefit as well, I'd like to ask, in 2023, it seems likely that you might need to hire. What sort of person would you be looking to hire, if I may trouble you to share with the world?
I don't know whether personally I need to hire, but definitely our team is hiring. Our team is definitely hiring. if you ask me, we would like to have a person who is hardworking, because I have to say everyone in our team, they're pretty hardworking. So if you're hardworking and you like working on complex cases, and I say this because not everybody likes working on complex cases. You can get it can really invade into your life. You know, sometimes I wake up in the morning with like my head full of cross-examination questions before trial. So that's the hazards of this job. So if you don't mind that, and you know, you kind of like working on the complex cases, and this is something I want to do, you can definitely explore. Because you know, we will put in the effort to train, but the candidate should also put in the effort to learn. It's really about the attitude, if you ask me. If you're willing to put in the hours, if you're willing to put in the work, we will be happy to teach you.
Thank you, Nandu. Thank you very much, everyone. I think it's unfortunate that our time, is running short, and we will have to wrap up this webinar, unfortunately. Please do let us know if you have any questions or if any ideas for what other topics we can speak about subsequently in the future. Please feel free to reach out to us directly. And finally, as a closing note, I would like to share that I think not all who wander are lost. I would say, when I first entered law school in 2013, it seemed to me like the legal degree, was a very good can opener. What was sold to us was that legal profession alone is not necessarily the only path you can take. As an example, I believe legal recruitment is very much a viable, possible career option for all those lawyers out there, lawyers to be, who may not want to practice, may not find it within their own career aspirations to practice. I will say that there is plenty of other opportunities for you to utilize your skill sets if you're open-minded and take the initiative. With that in mind, thank you everyone, Jacqueline, Nandu, Agnes, Shu, for the enjoyable session with us today, and I wish everyone a good evening. Thank you.